Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're here, you're welcome. My name is Rosina Sharon, and today we're going to do a full face of makeup for beginners. So I'm going to do the eyeshadow very simple, so you guys can understand the face as well. Very detailed, step-by-step tutorial. Okay, before we do that, kindly subscribe, share your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be reading all of them kama kawaida. And if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. With no further ado, let us go straight into the video. And please subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start by brushing the eyebrows upwards before we start lining. And to line, we're going to use the Davis number 3. Make sure it's very sharp. Where to start lining the lower side of the brow, you're going to follow the corner of the nose there. Place your first dot there. And the second dot, where to start curving, you're going to follow where your pupil ends. Second dot, and then the third dot following the lower lash line in that angle. Place your third dot there, sorry. And when you're holding your eye pencil, make sure it's pointed towards the eye, not angled, okay? And then you're just going to follow those 3 dots to line at the lower side of the brow. Now for my beginners, it would be easier if you've already trimmed your eyebrows, and if you're going to use an eye pencil, make sure the eyebrow area is very dry. Now as you curve towards the outer corner, make sure you curve it outwards, okay? Now before you line the upper side, make sure you level the brows first, and then you're just going to place a dot directly above where your eyebrow starts curving on the lower side, okay? And then around the inner corner, don't start directly on the inner corner itself, leave just a bit of space, okay? And then you're just going to follow those dots, and then follow your natural eyebrow shape to shape the upper side as well. Now before you start filling in, you're going to use bar soap. Make sure it's wet. You wet it with water, rub on it, and then you're going to use a thick white foam. So just go take a spoolie and take some of that thick white foam and use this to brush through the brows before you start filling in, okay? Now immediately after, use the other side of the brush and press them eyebrows in so they stick onto the skin, and then allow for that soap to dry out completely fast before you start filling in. To fill in, you're going to start from the outer corner going towards the inner corner, and you're going to use gentle strokes and very little force, and focus majorly on the areas you feel like there is space where your natural eyebrows are very visible. Leave that area alone. Around the inner corner, you can tilt your eye pencil sideways like that, and then just create a shadow starting from the lower side, and here you're going to use very little force. Then after that, you're going to clean the brows. You're going to use a concealer 2 shades lighter than your skin tone and a flat brush. Now when you're applying the product onto the brush, apply it side to side so the product is concentrated on the side of the brush, not on the tip of the brush. Now how you're holding the brush is very important. Make sure it's seated in that angle, okay? Don't point it towards the eyebrow. And then around the inner corner, just leave a tiny bit of space. And then the trick here is just make sure your hands are very stable as you're cleaning. Take your time, okay? Don't be in a rush. Okay, as you clean towards the outer corner, again clean it outwards, in an outwards angle, not in an inwards angle, okay? And then immediately after this, make sure you drag the product down. Now you can drag the product down sideways, sorry guys. Around the inner corner, you're going to use a foundation that matches your skin tone, okay? And always drag the product down as you go. And then immediately after that, use a fluffy brush just to blend that product in before you continue to set the lids for eyeshadow, okay? And when you're doing this, you tap. Now moving on to eyeshadow, you can start by setting the lid using either a concealer or an eyeshadow base. I prefer using an eyeshadow base. And you're going to use a fluffy brush for this. Place the product on the side of the brush, not on the tip of the brush. And then you're going to start setting the lids from the lower lid moving up. To set from the lower lid moving up. And here you're just tapping, tap, starting from the lower lid moving up. So as you go up, it just blends into that concealer on the upper side. It does not overpower the concealer on the upper side of the lid. So before we start with the eyeshadow application, the eyeshadow brush we're going to use today is small, round and fluffy. We're starting off with a dark brown, not black. We're doing a smoky eye, and for beginners I would recommend you start practicing using a dark brown, okay? Don't go for black smoky. So before you start applying the eyeshadow, make sure that there are no creases on the eyelids, and then you're going to apply the product on the side of the brush, okay? And for a smoky eye, you start the application from the lower lid. Do you see that? From the lower lid to the midpoint of that first shade starts from the lower lid to the midpoint of the lid, and here you're tapping the product in so the pigment is maintained, okay? And before you continue, you're going to tap off the excess product on the very same brush, And after, you're going to use the next shade of brown, okay, the next lighter shade of brown, and using stroke like motion, you're just going to gently loosen the edge of that first. Do you see where the first transition stops? Midpoint. And to loosen the edge, you're going to use gentle strokes, okay? And you keep tapping off the product and keep doing that. Now before you blend in that second shade again, make sure you loosen the edge using the very same brush, tap off the excess product, and you're using gentle strokes while you're doing that, okay? And then after that, you're using a lighter shade of brown, the next lighter shade. So you started off with a dark brown, and then you went to a medium brown, and then now you went to a lighter shade of brown, and that is what you're going to use to blend in the second transition. And here you're going to use circular motions, very little force. And before you continue, you're going to use a finishing powder that matches your skin tone, just to mattify that concealer just below your eyebrows. Guys, I'm sorry, I have a cold, please forgive me. Now for smoky eye, the darker shade should only be seated on the lower point of the lid to the midpoint, okay? We don't want to see the darker shade all the way up. Then you can do mascara and your falsies. And then moving on to the face, we're going to start off with the Bondi Sands SPF 50 sunscreen. This is a very moisturizing sunscreen. It's a sunscreen and moisturizer. Then we're going to apply that all over the face, okay? Yeah, you blend it into the skin and allow for it to set first before you move on to the next step. And for our new beginners, skin prep is very, very important. Foundation does not sit well on dry skin. Make sure you moisturize your skin to the core. That includes people with oily skin, okay? And then after that, I'm going to use the Rimmel Stay Matte Primer. I'm only going to apply that on my T-zone area because I have a dry skin. For my oily skin girlies, you can apply that all over the areas you feel like you have open pores, okay? And then I'm just going to apply that on my T-zone area and then tap it in. I tap this in so it sits into the skin, okay? So tap, 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 tap until it blends into the skin, and then again allow for it to set first before you move on to the next step. So after that, we're moving on to foundation. I'm using the NARS foundation. My shade is Macau. If you're looking for more affordable option, I would recommend you use the Maybelline Lumi Matte foundation, the new Lumi Matte foundation. And for application, you're going to use a damp beauty blender. Make sure you squeeze out the excess water on the beauty blender. So wet the beauty blender and squeeze out the excess water completely fast, okay? And then to blend, you're just going to tap, 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 starting from the cheek area, tap it in, and little product goes a very long way. We're not going to apply foundation under the eyes, guys. We do not apply foundation under the eyes, okay? So after that, you're going to do the same on the same thing on the other side of the face. Around the nose region, use very, very little product, okay? Now, moving on to the forehead, you're going to start blending in between the brows first, and then as you move up, you're going to blend just above the brows, starting just above the brows, left to right, okay? So you're going to blend that left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left, so the product spreads out evenly. We don't want to see a very light shade of a foundation just on your hairline, okay? We want the product blended in nicely. And then after that, we're going to highlight the face. You're going to use a concealer 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. And to highlight, you're going to start with the under eyes, apply a bit of product around the inner corner of the under eyes and the outer corner, just a tiny bit of product. Don't use too much product, especially if you're still a beginner, okay? And then you're going to do just a tiny bit on the tip of the nose, and then a tad bit on the forehead as well, okay? Now, before we continue, I'm going to use a burnt orange creamy lipstick as my blush. Beginners, you don't need to do this. You do not need to do this. So I just do this before I start blending in the concealer, okay? I do this immediately after foundation before I start blending in the concealer, okay, just to give the face a bit of color back, okay? And then after that, now to blend in the concealer, I would recommend you start with a bridge of the nose, going towards the forehead first, and then the under eye should be your last point of blending, okay? Now for the forehead, same technique, left to right, right to left, until the concealer blends into the foundation, okay? And then after that is when you're going to blend in the under eyes. Now when you're blending in the under eyes, make sure you have finishing setting powder just next to you. So immediately after you're done blending in the under eye, you set them in immediately so you avoid creasing under the eyes. Okay, so to blend, you're just going to start from the inner corner, going towards the inner corner, and take your time, beginners. When it comes to blending, don't rush. Take your time. Take your time. Okay, take your time to blend that in. All right. And to blend again, we just tap, 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 tap. Don't drag the product around. You're going to tap, 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 tap. Okay, I said the under eye should be your last option. So immediately after you're done blending in the concealer on the under eyes, using the same beauty blender, the side that has product, take some of that finishing powder. The finishing powder should match the same shade as the concealer to set the under eyes. You start off with the under eyes, set the concealer, okay? Immediately after, don't wait for that concealer to dry. So to set, you're just going to press it in, press that powder in so it sets that concealer. Okay, so you're going to start off with the under eyes, and then you're going to set on all the other areas you highlighted using a concealer. That would include the bridge of the nose, forehead, and then you can set along the smile lines as well. And remember, after you blend all this in, it might have interfered with that blush. So take the same brush you were using. Don't add any product on it, just to blend that before you continue. Now next, you're going to use a powder contour to contour our cheeks. Now if you don't know where to place your cheek contour, you're going to use these two fingers, okay? Thumb under your nose and then the index finger above your ear, so it gives you a guideline on where exactly to contour your cheeks. And your cheek contour should end where your pupil ends, okay? Don't bring it all the way down. Now you're going to use a powder shade that is 2 shades darker than your skin tone, and you're going to start from the hairline moving down, okay? And to contour, the technique here is you sweep like motion facing up, okay? Don't bring the contour down, upwards. And then you're going to contour your forehead as well, okay, using the same shade. Now moving on to nose contour. Nose contour, you don't need to nose contour for beginners, okay? But you're going to start where your eyeshadow stops in a 45-degree angle. Place the brush in that angle on both sides, so it gives you a guideline on where exactly to place the contour lines. Now for the contour lines, you're going to start off with a flat brush to draw the contour lines on both sides, and you keep tapping off the excess product from the brush as you do this, so you don't end up using too much product around the nose region, okay? And cut it down as well, okay? Don't leave it open on the lower side. And then to blend that in, you're going to use a clean fluffy brush, okay? And then you're going to start blending from the upper side, blend it into the eyeshadow. Now as you move down, you're going to tap, tap, tap. Don't drag the product downwards, tap it in. And you're using a clean fluffy brush so you don't end up having harsh contour lines on your nose. Okay, so now after that, I'm just using a cream black liner on the waterline alone, and this one is smudge proof, waterproof. It's from Golden Lip Cosmetics. Smudge proof and waterproof. You don't want that eyeliner coming all the way down after you're done. Then after that, you're just going to use a finishing powder that matches your skin tone and blend all the areas you do not use powder. So that would include the lower side of the contour here, the cheek area here, around the forehead as well. Just blend everything in together before you continue, okay? And then after you're done with all this, you can use just a tad bit of clear gloss on the cheek here where you applied your blush, just to give it that subtle highlight, like a dewy finish, okay? You don't need to do highlight after this, just to give it a dewy finish so it looks like a natural glow, not a very artificial glow, okay? And then after that, you're going to use a setting spray. I'm going to use a Golden Lip Cosmetics setting spray all over, and apply a generous amount, and don't spray it too close to your face. From a distance, and apply a very generous amount of setting spray, okay? And then after that, I'm just going to apply a bit of a highlighting thing around the inner corner of the eyes there, just to give it a pop of, you know, a pop. And then you can highlight the nose, but that is very optional. Beginners, you don't need to do this. And then after that, I'm moving on to the lips. I'm starting off by lip lining using a brown lip liner. I'm actually using the same shade of eye pencil I was using, that is Davis number 3, to lip line. Starting off with the lower lip, and then I'm going to lip line the upper lip as well. And then guys, after you're done lip lining, make sure you blend in that lip liner before you move on to lipsticks. This step is very, very important, okay? Blend in that lip liner before you move on to lipstick. For lipstick, I'm just going for a nude gloss, just to complement the whole look, a nude gloss. And then because I want the lips to be, you know, very, very visible, I'm going to add a bit of a clear gloss on top of the gloss I used just to make it pop a bit more. And that would be it from me today, guys. This is the final look. This is how you do a proper smoky, guys. It should be flattering, not overpowering, okay? The smoky should only be on the, you see how when you open your eyes, it just looks good, okay? And a disclaimer, when you're doing a smoky, it looks bad before it looks good. So, you know, trust the process. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have learned something from this tutorial. Make sure you subscribe kindly. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.